Hi students, welcome to English class. So we'll come to the second unit named Wings and Wheels. So can you think of any similarity between these two words, wings and wheels? What are these words associated with? Any idea? I think you can have an idea if you just look at the picture given here. I think some of the figures given there you can easily identify because they are very famous. What are they? Okay, Taj Mahal is there, Qutb Minar, pyramids, Eiffel Tower. Then what's the specialty of all these things? These are places where people visit. Okay, so people visit these places or visit these monuments quite often. Okay, so what may be the idea of wings and wheels? Okay, they are related to journey, they are related to movement, etc. So wings are for movements, for birds. Wheels are also for movements. So it's about the similarity is that both the words are related to movement, journeys, etc. So in this unit we have 4 lessons. Which are the 4 lessons? 2 prose lessons are there. First one is A Shipwrecked Sailor by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. The Little Round Red House by Caroline Sherwin Bailey. And 2 poems. First one From a Railway Carriage by R.L. Stevenson, and then Marvelous Travel by Joshua Fernandez. So 4 lessons are there. So the first lesson is A Shipwrecked Sailor. Do you know what's the meaning of shipwrecked, or who is a shipwrecked sailor? Sailor, I think it's a familiar word for you. Okay. Sailor is a word that you are familiar with. Who is a shipwrecked sailor? Who is a shipwrecked sailor? Any idea? Okay, so I think that word is not so familiar to you. Wreck is any sort of damage. So what may be shipwrecked? Okay, അപ്പോൾ കപ്പൽ അപകടത്തിൽപ്പെട്ട ഒരു sailor, navigator. So the story of a shipwrecked sailor. So as introduction it is mentioned, the story of a shipwrecked sailor tells the saga of Luis Alejandro Velasco, a 20-year-old sailor who was washed overboard during a storm in the middle of the Caribbean Sea on February 28, 1955. So the main character of the story, and in the story we see him as Velasco. He was a sailor, only 20-year-old sailor. So what happened to? He was washed overboard during a storm in the middle of the Caribbean Sea on February 28, 1955. Then how did he escape? How did he save himself? So clinging to a life raft without food and water, he survived 10 days on the open sea. What happened to Velasco and his shipmates? Read the following extract from the novella and find out what happened to them. So that's why it is named A Shipwrecked Sailor. കപ്പൽ അപകടത്തിൽപ്പെട്ട ഒരു നാവികൻ. Many sailors are there, and one of the main sailors named Velasco. It's the story of Velasco. That's why A Shipwrecked Sailor. Okay, so we'll see what happened to Velasco and his friends. Whether they could escape or what happened. All these things are mentioned in this story. So in the first sentence itself, the feeling of the narrator is mentioned. So here in the story, who is the narrator? Velasco is the narrator. So he is narrating everything happened. Okay. So what was his first impression? He was all alone. He was utterly alone in the middle of the ocean. So what happened? What happened there? The ship plunged into an abyss and disappeared. Plunged into an abyss. So abyss, I think it is the meaning of നമ്മൾ മലയാളത്തിൽ പറയുന്നത് ചുഴി എന്നൊക്കെ പറയാം അല്ലേ. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ചുഴിയിൽ വീണിട്ട് കപ്പൽ അപ്രത്യക്ഷമായി. So what happened? What did he do? I took hold of one of the bobbing crates and stupidly began to contemplate the sea. So he could hold on a crate, a framework which was floating in the water. Okay, so and what happened? He was thinking of what all things happened, or he was thinking of the sea, and maybe also no doubt how to escape and all these things. Actually, he says that it was a very clear day, a perfectly clear day. Except for the choppy waves produced by the wind and the cargo scattered across the surface, there was no evidence of a shipwreck. It was such a calm and quiet day. And the only things remained there, the cargo scattered across the surface. What's the cargo? Maybe the things which were there in the ship. അപ്പോൾ കപ്പലിലുണ്ടായിരുന്ന സാധനങ്ങളൊക്കെ ചിതറിക്കിടപ്പുണ്ട്, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ചെറിയ തിരമാലകളുണ്ട്, അല്ലാതെ എന്താണ്, നോ എവിഡൻസ് ഓഫ് എ ഷിപ്പ്. അപ്പം അങ്ങനെ ഒരു കപ്പൽ അപകടം നടന്നതിൻ്റെ യാതൊരു സൂചനകളും ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നില്ല. So we know that his feeling was that he was all alone because he couldn't see any of his friends. But suddenly something else happened. What was that? He could hear the shouts nearby. So it was very clear that he was not alone. Okay. Through the sharp whistling of the wind, I recognized the voice of Giulio Amadeo Carabello, the tall, well-built officer who was yelling at someone, "Fatso, hold there." So whose sound was that? The sound of his friend Carabello. He was shouting to someone. That showed that someone else also was there. And what did he shout? "Oh brother, please hold on." അല്ലേ, എങ്ങനെയെങ്കിലും പിടിച്ച് കടന്നോണം, മുങ്ങിപ്പോകരുത് എന്നൊക്കെയാണ് അവനവിടെ ഷൗട്ട് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. So it was as if in that instant I had awakened from a moment's deep sleep, because everything, the shipwreck, everything happened all on a sudden. That's why he says that it was as if he had awakened from a moment's deep sleep. So it dawned on me that I wasn't alone in the sea. The first paragraph he saw that he thought that he was utterly alone. Then he could listen to the sounds of his friends from a distance. He understood that he was not alone. There were his friends a few meters away, and those friends were shouting one another, and they were trying to stay afloat. Then stay afloat എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ വെള്ളത്തിൽ മുങ്ങിപ്പോകാതെ വെള്ളത്തിൽ പൊങ്ങിക്കിടക്കാൻ അവർ ശ്രമിച്ചുകൊണ്ടിരുന്നു. Then quickly I began to think. I couldn't swim in just any direction. Can you say why did he say that I couldn't swim in just any direction? Because it is endless sea. It won't be easy to swim and reach the shore, because he says that the land from where they started, Cartagena, and from Cartagena there were about 50 miles. 50 miles from Cartagena. അപ്പോൾ അത് ഒന്നാമത് ഏത് ഡയറക്ഷനിലാണ് നീന്തേണ്ടതെന്ന് അറിയില്ല, തന്നെയല്ല നീന്തി അത്രയും ദൂരം സേഫായിട്ട് പോവുക എന്നുള്ളത് വെരി ഡിഫിക്കൽട്ട്. So he understood that it is quite meaningless if he tries to swim and reach the shore. For a moment I thought I could hold on to the crate indefinitely, until help arrived. So what did he think? He would hold on the crate, that framework. We know that he tried to keep afloat holding on a floating crate. അപ്പോൾ അതിൽ പിടിച്ചെങ്ങനെയെങ്കിലും കുറച്ച് കാലം അല്ലെങ്കിൽ കുറച്ച് ദിവസങ്ങൾ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ കുറച്ച് സമയം ആരെങ്കിലും സഹായിക്കാൻ വരുന്നത് വരെ പൊങ്ങിക്കിടക്കാമെന്ന് വിചാരിച്ചു. It was reassuring to know that all around me other sailors were in the same predicament, the same condition. He was very clear that, or he was very sure that all his friends also were in the same condition, quite helpless. Okay, that was when I saw the raft. So while he was holding on the crate, he could see two life rafts. ആ കപ്പലിൽ തന്നെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്ന അല്ലെങ്കിൽ മുങ്ങിയ കപ്പലിൽ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്ന രണ്ട് ചെറിയ റാഫ്റ്റ്സ് അല്ലെ, ചങ്ങാടങ്ങൾ അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് കണ്ടു, ലൈഫ് റാഫ്റ്റ്സ്. And it is mentioned, there were two life rafts about 7 meters apart. They appeared unexpectedly on the crest of a wave near where my mates were calling out. So if he could get one of the rafts, it would be easy for him to save himself. Okay, so that's what he thought. It seemed odd that none of them could reach the life rafts. So he imagined, or he understood that the life rafts were almost near to his friends, but it was quite surprising that they couldn't reach it. കാരണം അദ്ദേഹം നോക്കിയപ്പോൾ അത് മറ്റുള്ള ആ സൗണ്ട് കേട്ട ഭാഗത്തായിട്ടാണ് അല്ലെ ഈ ലൈഫ് റാഫ്റ്റ്സിലുള്ളത്. പക്ഷെ ആരും അതിലേക്ക് കയറിയില്ല എന്നുള്ളതാണ് സർപ്രൈസിംഗ് ആയിട്ട് തോന്നിയ കാര്യം. In an instant, one of the rafts disappeared from view. So how many rafts were there? 2 rafts were there. Suddenly one of them disappeared. I couldn't decide. I found myself swimming towards the one I could see, which was moving farther away from me. So what was he trying to do? He was trying to get one of the rafts. So he was swimming to one of the rafts which he could see. I swam for about 3 minutes. I lost sight of the raft momentarily, but I was careful not to lose my bearings. So while he was swimming to one of the rafts, that also disappeared, or he couldn't see the raft anymore. But I was careful not to lose my bearing. What is bearing? That angular distance. അപ്പോൾ എന്താണ് അതുകൊണ്ട് ഉദ്ദേശിക്കുക? കപ്പൽ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ആ കപ്പലിൽ നിന്ന് താഴെ വീണ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ കപ്പലിൽ വെള്ളത്തിൽ പതിച്ച 2 ലൈഫ് റാഫ്റ്റ്സ് അതിലൊന്നിലേക്ക് എത്താനുള്ള വലസ്കോയുടെ ശ്രമമാണ് പറയുന്നത് അല്ലേ. അപ്പോൾ while he was swimming he couldn't see the raft, but he was very careful to not to lose my bearing. അപ്പോൾ എന്താണ് നമുക്കറിയാം. അപ്പോൾ അദ്ദേഹം ഇന്ന ഭാഗത്താണ് ഇന്ന കോണിലായിട്ടാണ് ആ ഒരു ലൈഫ് റാഫ്റ്റ് ഉള്ളതെന്നുള്ള ഒരു കാര്യമുണ്ടല്ലോ. അപ്പോൾ അത് ആ ദിശ മാറാതെ, ദിശ തെറ്റാതെ ആ റാഫ്റ്റ് കാണാൻ സാധിച്ചില്ലെങ്കിലും അതിലേക്ക് എത്താനായിട്ടുള്ള ശ്രമം നടത്തിയെന്ന് കാണിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ടാണ്. Suddenly a rough wave pushed the rafts alongside me. It was huge, white and empty. I struggled to grab the rigging and jump aboard. I made it on the 3rd try. So as he was in the sea, it was not an easy task to get into the raft. He could be successful only, it is mentioned, on the 3rd try. അപ്പോൾ വെള്ളത്തിൽ നിന്ന് ആ റാഫ്റ്റിലേക്ക് കയറാനുള്ള ശ്രമം 3 പ്രാവശ്യം നോക്കിയിട്ടാണ് അതിലേക്ക് കയറാനായിട്ട് സാധിച്ചത്. ഓക്കെ, once on the raft, panting, whipped by the wind, immobilized and freezing, I found it hard to sit up. That means he was very tired while he got into the raft. കാരണം അത്രയും നേരം വെള്ളത്തിൽ കിടന്നു അല്ലെങ്കിൽ വളരെ ശ്രമിച്ചിട്ടാണ് ആ റാഫ്റ്റിലേക്ക് കയറാൻ സാധിച്ചത്. ഉണ്ടാകെ ക്ഷീണിതനായിരുന്നു എന്നുള്ളത്. Then I saw three of my mates near the raft trying to reach it. Like first he could identify the sound of his friend Carabello, and Carabello was shouting to someone, and he understood that there were other mates also, but now he could see three of his mates. So who all were the three mates? It is mentioned. I recognized them immediately. Castillo had a firm grip around Carabello's neck. Castillo, one. What was he doing? A firm grip around Carabello's neck. Carabelloയുടെ കഴുത്തിൽ വട്ടം മുറുകെ പിടിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്. Carabello, who had been on watch when the accident occurred, was wearing his life jacket. So why was Castillo holding on Carabello? Because Carabello was wearing life jacket. He yelled, "Hold on tight, Castillo." They floated amid the scattered cargo about 10 meters away. So what did Carabello shout to, yell to Castillo? Hold on tight. മുറുകെ പിടിച്ചോളൂ എന്നാണ് പറഞ്ഞത് അല്ലേ? അപ്പം അവൻ്റെ കഴുത്തിലാണ് മുറുകെ പിടിച്ചേക്കുന്ന പറഞ്ഞ് വിട്ടിട്ട് പോടാന്നല്ല പറഞ്ഞത്. പിന്നെന്താ പറഞ്ഞേ? മുറുകെ പിടിച്ചോണം, പിടിവിടരുത് എന്നാണ് പറഞ്ഞത്. And what were they trying to? They also were trying to reach the raft. On the other side was Louis Rengifo, trying to stay above water with his headphones aloft in his right hand. So the third one, Rengifo, it is mentioned. He had stripped off his shirt so that he could swim better, but he had lost his life jacket. What happened? He lost his life jacket. Even if I hadn't seen him, I would have recognized his cry, "Fatso, paddle over here." From his sound, he could identify, he could recognize his cry, it is mentioned. I quickly grabbed the oars and tried to get closer to the men. So what did he try to do? He tried to reach near the other sailors or his friends, no doubt. Carabello with Castillo clicking to his neck neared the raft. So they were, even though there were other sailors, these two were almost near to the raft. Much farther away, looking small and desolate, was the fourth of my mates, Raman Herrera. So the fourth one. So Castillo, Carabello, Rengifo, and now the last one, Raman Herrera, who was waving at me while he held on to a crate. He was waving at me. Why was he waving? That may be to reach near him and to save him. Okay, so 5 sailors now. Can you recollect the name of the 5 sailors? The narrator, Velasco, then his friends, Castillo, Carabello, Rengifo, and Raman Herrera. And only Velasco could reach on the raft and get into that. It was his duty to save the other sailors, and they were almost near to him. It is mentioned almost 7 meters, it is mentioned. So in the next part, his attempt to save his friends, what all things he did, what were the difficulties he had to face, whether he was successful in his attempt, whether he could save all of them. All these things are mentioned in the next part of the story. Okay, so that we will discuss in the next class. But make sure that you go through the lines, the first 5 paragraphs very carefully, because it is I think it is not so easy. It is easy but not so easy. So you have to read many times, and number of words are there, more difficult words are there. Learn the meaning, learn the spelling, read it many times, and then try to complete the side question. Okay, the rest of the story we will discuss next class. Okay, thank you.